I know my 2 cents hardly matter. And I know talking about politics is rarely helpful. But after the US has just struck Yemen, I just have to comment on the war in Gaza and the US government generally. Like the Israeli government right now and the US federal government generally, what I've seen from it for the last decades, they can both go to hell. I am absolutely done with both. And by done, I just mean my respect for them and what they claim to be is finished. I don't consider America a democracy at all. It's more like a military regime. I consider the US government to be responsible for the worst problems in the world. And I cannot believe I got gaslighted by them for so long to thinking China was the threat, or Russia was the threat, or North Korea was the threat, when these countries have just been struggling to deal with a unique hegemon that is constantly at war and breaks its own international laws whenever it wants. But what is happening right now in Gaza, I have never seen the like in my life. It is unbelievable. Of course, people are calling it a genocide. And it looks clearly like ethnic cleansing. And it's certainly an absolutely vile and evil massacre and collective punishment of a people. I mean, Israel produced a terrorist factory in Gaza. I mean, I know what happened in Australia to the indigenous people here is horrific. But it was 200 years ago. And it wasn't in plain sight like today. And however much generational trauma and institutional racism there exists for Aboriginal people today, they have full rights in Australia legally. You can't say the same for Palestinians in the country of their birth, of their parents' birth, of their grandparents' birth, in the land of their birth. Like, I'm not going to talk the history here. I'm not going to rant a long time. I know this isn't helpful to talk about, but God help the Palestinians. Like, free Palestine. God help Israel too, but it's very hard to justify the creation of Israel. Like, you know, however much noble, beautiful vision went into it and love and real work, it wouldn't have existed without the blessings of the imperial powers so they could have a proxy in the land of oil. And where the buck stops matters. It doesn't matter how lofty and noble you are. If your existence is to serve as an imperial proxy, that is going to corrupt you. And I know this is so harsh, anti-Semitic to people, but I'm done with Israel. I can't defend it. I can't defend it. I mean, we'll see what happens when this criminal government is replaced. I don't judge anybody forever. But the US government, who I do blame for this even more than Israel, has shown itself decade after decade to be a threat to democracy, the greatest threat to democracy in the world. It's a joke. It's an absolute joke, a republic. I mean, you've got a two-party state that are just virtually the same on every globalist issue. You know, there's a few culture war stripes to mark them out as different, but they always support the military-industrial complex when push comes to shove. And, the American politicians, it's so clear now post-Obama that they're just selected. This current election in America is just going to be the absolute fucking circus. I mean, we got two people nobody even wants, Trump and Biden. And this is the premier democracy in the world. This is, a man who can't even talk without sounding like he's about to have a stroke, and a guy who most of America hates, who's clearly a deranged narcissist. I could go on forever. The Democratic Party is suppressing primaries. They're literally suppressing democracy. They're like, no election this time. We're going to go with this fucking octogenarian retard, and he's going to be this is going to represent us. And then it's save democracy. Like, it's such an absolute clown show. And there's this war happening in Gaza. You know, America's like sending them all the bombs in the world and saying, don't use too many. Like, this is in my name. I have never been so ashamed to be associated with liberal democracy in my life. I don't even know what it is anymore. But not in my name. This is not in my name. God damn America. The American government. American people, I'm not attacking you. This is not, I'm not trying to be anti-American. It's the goddamn federal government. Like, Christ. Anyway, I'm repeating myself now. I'm at 5 minutes. God forgive us all, I mean. But especially the Yemenis. And the Palestinians right now. Because what Israel has done in Gaza is basically, they produced a terrorist factory. And then they're surprised when October the 7th happens. Now it seems like America wants the Yemenis to sink some American ships so they can go to some epic war with Iran. God help us all. God forgive us.